For over a decade, a subreddit has existed, one that has been dedicating itself to solving personal matters within other Redditors' lives. The severity of the situation does not matter on r/RBI, as long as the mystery within the story is unshrouded. Not every case is answered, and, in fact, the majority of the cases are not resolved. People's personal matters are simply left out to dry, hoping for someone to help. But here are 3 times that r/RBI had answered Reddit's call. On Wednesday, September 13th, 2023, Reddit user ClueHaunting5583 would come to the RBI subreddit, and her story goes as follows. My best friend was killed. Nobody was charged, and no one except the cops know where his killer is today. My best friend was working overnight at a cab company as a dispatcher. An old employee donning a mask, gloves, and a machete entered a 6-digit code to enter the shared office building, walked 3 offices down the hallway, directly into the cab company's office, and stabbed my best friend to death around 2 to 3 a.m. When he left, he picked up 2 workers and confessed that he had killed him. The police chose not to use this evidence because of the character of the workers. They have him on videotape a few days earlier, standing in front of the building, screaming that he was going to, quote-unquote, gut another employee's name like a fish. This isn't solid evidence, so it was also thrown out. The car he left and got into after the murder mysteriously disappeared. They were never able to locate it or the murder weapon. The owner of the company had purchased this car for him just a few months earlier. He was arrested a little over a year after the murder and did 8 months in jail for armed robbery of a convenience store. When police questioned him about the murder of my best friend, he just told them to prove it and that he would be fleeing for Mexico the second he got out of jail. That was 6 years ago. My best friend was murdered in November of 2015, and nobody was ever charged or barely even questioned. The guy who owned a company he was working at the time had 3 Class A felonies pending against him. Although everybody questioned about the murder gave them solid evidence that the owner was involved, the police ignored it, and that man walked away. The guy turned rat and none of the felonies stuck, so he skated. He showed up to the funeral, surrounded by 6 Hells Angels that he had hired to protect him for the funeral, since he knew all the family and friends knew about his involvement. Police refused to answer questions regarding if the guy they swear killed him is in America or if he did in fact flee the country. When questioned about anything about the case, they say they can't release any information since it's a quote-unquote open investigation, even though it's clearly a cold case with no new leads, updates, or anything new. To keep the case open, they had 2 cops show up at a friend's house to inform him that as he was dying, my best friend had made a call to the friend's phone. That prepaid phone that received the call was broken when the guy that got the call threw it at the owner of the cab company when all of his friends went to the crime scene. So, he didn't know about the call until 6 years later when the cops showed up to tell him about it. The guy they questioned about the phone call was one of his best friends and is now a lawyer, so it's not like there was any question of involvement or anything, just showing that once every 5 or so years, they will unnecessarily mess with people for entertainment. This is also the same police force that took 20-something years to arrest a Gilgo Beach murderer. All the while, he continued stacking bodies on the beaches of New York. So, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see this guy in the headlines. 20 years later, because police finally felt like making a move. With the reference to the Gilgo Beach murders, we're able to identify that OP's story happened within Suffolk County, Long Island, New York. This being backed up by replies from OP. This sounds like good content for a podcaster or a YouTuber. which could get a lot of attention on the case and traction from the police. I've reached out to 3 of the big YouTube true crime channels that I know. One emailed me back because I had asked her about my own YouTube channel, but when I gave her more info about the murder, I stopped hearing back. I stopped emailing her after my 3rd email went unanswered. The other 2 never responded in the first place. I think it's really hard to get any true crime people to cover it, because the story got next to no media coverage. His name was barely reported. The news just put out, Long Island man killed overnight in office, and that was about it. It just so happened that the same week that he was killed, a town or 2 over, 2 teenage girls had been killed in a gang initiation, and that took over the news cycle. Honestly, there wasn't really much sensation for the news to report on, so even without those separate murders, I don't know that anybody would have reported on it. Because of this, the YouTubers have been silent. As more and more replies garnered, the concept of corrupted police expanded more and more, and after just a quick Google search, I discovered several horror stories about Long Island's police department. A police chief exposing himself in a public park as he tried to hire a male sex worker, beating a handcuffed prisoner in a Suffolk County police precinct, blocking the FBI's investigation of the Gilgo Beach murders, which, as I read more, I discovered this. Back in 2012, Police Chief James Burke was accused of allegedly blocking FBI's investigation into the Gilgo Beach murders case shortly after becoming the chief of the department. At the time, several media outlets alleged that Burke's move stemmed from him being in the FBI's radar for assaulting Christopher Loeb in custody after the latter stole a bag from Burke's car, which contained sex toys and pornographic material. Loeb also claimed that Burke, allegedly, had a snuff film which linked him to the Long Island serial killings. What the fuck? With enough evidence and plenty of other Redditor stories about cover-ups and mistreatment of murder cases, it was clear that there would be little assistance towards OP's situation. At first, when a lot of people cared and would have pulled money for a PI, it was that police vehemently swore that they were working on it, and a private investigator would stand in the way and mess things up. And then, as time went on, others lost interest, and there seemed to be only a few of us left that still cared, maybe 2 or 3. And none of us have the financial ability to get a PI, because in New York, that's tens of thousands. After some thorough snooping of their profile, I came across a YouTube video where OP was interviewed, and because of this video, I was capable of tracking down and getting into contact with the poster, a disabled veteran named Dana Trupiana.
My name is Dana Trupiana, and
we discussed details about the case, discussing the suspect, the mysterious cab owner snitch, and the possible story as to why her best friend was chosen as a victim. I myself want to shine more light on this story. So, while discussing this can assist, what I can do is help afford an investigator, someone who does have the talents and assets. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story. This was the wrongful death of a mother's child, the death of someone's best friend, the death of an innocent bystander. And when the only system around that is built to help victims is a corrupted system, then it becomes our job as individuals to help. Therefore, a link will be posted to help hire Dana, an investigator. And as of now, I myself have already donated $2,000. If you would like to help fight corruption and get this story more attention, then the link is in the description. At the very least, we're creating a stronger possibility to solving the death of Billy Donahue, and to put Dana, Billy's peers, and family at ease. My grandfather passed away when I was young, and while I knew he was always a womanizer, I just found out from my grandmother that he helped open a few black sheep clubs before they had my father. I had never heard of the Black Sheep Club, but apparently, they were knockoffs of the Playboy Club. Out of curiosity, I tried to find more info about them online, but I can't seem to find much, other than the article that loosely mentions it below. From what I was told, there was one in New York and one in Chicago, before my grandfather was hired to open one in Scottsdale, Arizona. Has anyone heard of the Black Sheep Club, or can find anything about them online? Within the article that OP posts, there is only a single reference to this mysterious club, but no additional details are mentioned. A secretive group for more discreet lives, a tale as old as time. But with OP's help, a new article is discovered that breaks the surface layer of information on this Black Sheep's Club. Every man would like to be a black sheep if he could. I'm giving him the chance. In a harmless way, of course. In the suburb of Highland Park will go up a Black Sheep Club, where the pretty waitresses will be long of leg and short of clothes. The drinks expensive, $1.50 a shot, and the access limited to gentlemen key holders and their guests. The building will be the newest addition to the fast-growing number of key clubs, whose keys have become a new status symbol for those who do their playing on expense accounts. Cuties and cold cuts. The Vogue was started by Burt Brown, 55, president of Burton Brown Advertising, who declares that he is the only saloon keeper in the country listed in Who's Who's, the Social Register, and Dun & Bradstreet. In 1941, needing a place to entertain the advertising manager from Seattle after feeding him a steak and 3 martinis, Brown converted a small office adjoining his agency into the Sundown Room, equipped it with a bar and attractive barmaid. Soon, the Sundown Room became such a popular gathering place for Chicago hucksters that Brown could hardly get a drink in his own club. In 1953, Brown got 15 friends to invest $1,000 apiece in an expanded version of the Sundown, opened the Gaslight Club. The Chicago Gaslight was so successful that Brown opened another club in Manhattan in 1956. A year and a half later, opened a third in Washington. Membership in the 3 clubs is now more than 48,000, and altogether, they are expected to gross about $4 million this year. Net their stockholders more than $750,000. Since Brown feels he can oversee no more than 3 Gaslight clubs, he set up the Black Sheep Clubs, which have Gaslight atmosphere, but are owned and operated by local businessmen. He charges $8,500 for the franchise, plus $300 a month in royalty. So far, 3 Black Sheep Clubs are in operation in San Francisco, Atlanta, and Scottsdale, Arizona. Franchises for 32 clubs have been sold. A high society club that challenges and breaks the norm, as long as you can afford to get in. Another user was capable of finding another article, but due to limitations, I can only quote from their comment rather than the article. The John Hill Jr. atmosphere of most of these key clubs have had their socialite repercussions, as sundry local fetes have simulated the Black Sheep Club gay 90s roaring 20s motif of these blots. Burton Brown, who sparked the Gaslight Clubs, has enfranchised 3 of what he hopes will be a chain of lower-priced Black Sheep Clubs, currently only in San Francisco, Atlanta, and Scottsdale, Arizona. Another user digs up photos of the Black Sheep Club, and OP comments about showing them to their grandmother. That's super cool. I'll have to see if she remembers that logo. Apparently, it was a place that catered to more affluent people, and my grandfather found a brooch while closing down one night. My grandfather lived a wild life, so opening up a 1960s era strip club sounds pretty spot on for him based on the stories I've been told. My brother was kicked out and went missing over 10 years ago. My identical twin brother was gay, and when our father found out about that, he gave him about an hour to pack his things and leave. We were 17. I remember because I was there. I was just sitting on the bed in our room when my brother grabbed his school backpack, threw all books on the floor, and packed some clothes and a toothbrush. I didn't even say anything to him. He walked through the door, and I never saw him again. A few weeks later, we had CPS at our house, and our abuela took over custody of me and my younger siblings, and we reported my brother missing. Apparently, it was him who went to our teacher at school and told him about the situation at our home and how abusive our father was. But he didn't come back. I've been looking for him for the past 11 years. The last lead I had was from his quote-unquote friends, that he was around soon after he left. They were all junkies. Some of them were homeless. Apparently, he was living in and out of motels as a prostitute and was using, but I never actually managed to track him down. We barely talk about him, but when we do, my family refers to him as if he were dead, which is likely, but I don't want to believe that. A Redditor loses his brother and asks for help on the subreddit, r/raised by narcissists. Commenters spread their grievance, but overall, can't do much to provide answer to OP's situation, as OP doesn't respond to any of the comments. Users recommend support groups, social media, different subreddits, a DNA test, police records, and more, with many users even telling their own stories of disturbingly similar situations. OP finally comments in the thread once about their location. And then, silence. No updates. Nothing is said for weeks. Unfortunately, I'm forced to post this from a different account because the other one got suspended, and I hope it's alright to post an update. Firstly, I just wanted to thank everyone for the overwhelming amount of responses and support. I couldn't be more grateful, especially now that I'm very close to getting in touch with my brother now. I was able to establish that soon after he left home, he left the state and then joined the military, and he was there for a few years. I got a hold of his current social media handles, and last night, I was able to message him. I haven't heard back yet, but I think it's just a matter of time. I obviously couldn't tell exactly what his life looks like now, just from the pictures on his Instagram, but it looked quite peaceful. He lives in the UK now, and I think he's married, and I hope I'm right, and that I'll be able to see him soon. A shocking update to a harrowing post. After taking previous users' advice, OP takes their story over to RBI and states that not only have they just discovered that their brother is still alive, but seemingly doing well for themselves. Afraid to reach out, other commenters begin to motivate him, and finally, my brother was kicked out and went missing over 10 years ago. Update 2. I spoke to my brother on the phone. I cannot even describe the feeling I got when I heard his voice. I've never felt anything like that before. He didn't speak for a whole minute when I said it was me on the phone. He said he never tried to reach out because he was convinced we all hated him, and he didn't want to risk ever seeing our dad. He said he's doing well. He started university in London last year. He's studying fine arts. He's been clean for a few years. He's in therapy. He said he can't start a day without a handful of pills, and I guess that's understandable, considering what he's gone through. But it really seems like he's doing good. And he's actually getting married soon, to a man, and I couldn't be happier for him. I haven't told the rest of my siblings yet. My brother said he wants to fly here to see me and them, and his partner will come with him. It took me 2 whole days to process that, and I still feel like that might have been a dream. Out of everything that comes from the subreddit, this poster was able to find the happy ending to their decade-long grief. Their brother, once missing for 10 years, is alive, married, and happy.